Hey there, everyone. It's Denise Salcedo. Welcome back to the channel. With me today is none other than former two-time Impact World Champion, former X Division Champion, ladies and gentlemen, TNA Wrestling's very own Josh Alexander. Josh, welcome back to the channel.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here. I'm not looking forward to your crazy questions that come at the end of this. But they always catch
Yeah,
me
don't
off guard.
worry. I got none of that for you today. We're serious
Okay.
business here today.
I'm kind of let down.
I only put people through that at the for their first time on the
Oh.
channel. Yeah. Second time it's like, "Hey, let's catch up. Let's see what's going on, you know?"
Yeah, I totally get it.
Hell yeah. Well, Josh, first of all, I got to tell you, it's been very cool to see you come back following your injury. However, before we get to everything that you've been doing since then, I do want to touch on what that was like for you because, you were on a historic run as TNA World Champion, Impact World Champion at the time. And to have that end the way that it did during that time, I wanted to get into how you felt about that.
Oh, well, I think if you go back and you watch the promo where I give up the belt, you know what I mean, because of injury, I think that sums it up perfectly because all the words and stuff I'm saying, it all came from the heart. It was stuff like I was told, you have whatever time you need, go out there and do whatever you want, say whatever you want. And I've never been given that freedom before. And I went out there and, I got choked up. I got emotional. There were some real tears there because it's not so much the storyline stuff that it is. It was that I never expected to ever get to this point to being an Impact World Champion. I never expected to be in Impact Wrestling to begin with at that time. You know what I mean? It's all just a bonus for me after 2014, breaking my neck, thinking I was never going to wrestle again. And then to ascend to these heights and do all that work I was doing to, have that historic title reign that, something that I'm very proud of, that body of work I had, and for it to not have the finish. The story thing is pretty prevalent in wrestling, but this is the opposite. This is me getting to finish the story to finally lose that championship and, to give it up. It still eats away to me at this day. I know there was some unfinished business there, and unfortunately, injuries happen in this business, and I got to live with that. But
Yeah, it's those things where I kind of just like knowing you based off of our interviews, based off of what I see from you on TV. I'm just like, damn, that was not the way that it was supposed to play out for Josh Alexander. But regardless, you did it once, you can do it again, and I feel like already with the body of work that you've done with all of your matches, like the fans are. They're just excited to see you in the ring and whatnot. So with that being said, you recently you did an interview earlier today where you were talking about being your third year of your contract being picked up by TNA Wrestling, and now you're going into that additional year with TNA. I want to get your thoughts on what you're hoping to accomplish within that year and how you're looking at this maybe differently or not differently than the last 2 years.
I think the way I got to look at it is in 11 and a half or 12 months, whatever it is, there's a possibility that I won't be a part of TNA Wrestling. That is a realistic possibility. I'm not saying that it's going to happen for sure, but and then I think about how much time I have left, and time's a valuable resource to us human beings. It's the only thing that we can't get more of. So I'm going to make the best of these next 12 months, regardless of what the outcome is at the end of it. And for me, that means, winning back that TNA World Championship and, telling the story I originally wanted to tell when I had that historic reign. So I want to finish that off so that I don't have that regret of looking back at seeing how it ended the first time, and I can live with it better.
Maybe it was meant to be, it was meant to be so that you can have that opportunity to get back the TNA World Championship. And so, with that being said, you had also mentioned that, now that you are that Impact is TNA Wrestling is exercising that third option for that third year. You don't get to go into free agency, which kind of leaves you thinking what that experience might have been like. Knowing that you are going to be there in about a year, what are your thoughts on that?
Ooh, it's nerve wracking, to be honest. I've never been a free agent, as they say. I've never been honestly, I don't think anybody gave me an opportunity before Impact, really. People at Ring of Honor had talked about it, Evolve had talked about maybe picking me up and all this stuff, and that was all very exciting, but it obviously never transpired. Impact followed through. They brought me in, they got me a visa. And the one thing I can say about Impact TNA, we're both going to mess that up here now that the rebrand's happened. The one thing I can say is that TNA has been the land of opportunity since its inception in 2002. Whether you're somebody coming from a different company, wanting to show that you're capable of more than maybe you were allowed to show before, or you're an unknown on the independents like I was when I signed here 5 years ago, and just ready to show the world. This place is the place to get opportunities and make the best of them if you are ready. And I've been thankful enough to do that. And, for free agency and stuff like that, just thinking about it, the uncertainty of like, are people going to want me? All this stuff, being the belle of the ball, maybe if I'm the hottest free agent wrestling at the time, might be cool. But I'm just curious to see, because I've never had that dream of main event or WrestleMania or anything like that. And people rip on me for that all the time, but I never thought any of this was possible, genuinely. So it'll be cool in 11 and a half, 12 months to see where I stand in the grand scheme of the wrestling business and see what my value is and what I could possibly do next, because I feel like I've checked a lot of stuff off the bucket list here in TNA in my 5 years, and I have another year to check off a few more things. So it's all about fulfillment and seeing what I can do next.
So, there's been a lot of changes within TNA. We've had not only the rebranding of the name, there's just been just a bunch of changes. We've been seeing some new faces. We got to see Nick Nemeth, Mustafa Ali. I mean, there's a lot happening, a lot of moving parts. And one of those is also Scott DAmore no longer being part of the company. You did mention, on Twitter, you did speak out about that. I wanted to get what your opinion was on that, and also how you feel. How are things now without Scott DAmore, because he was such a big part of TNA wrestling?
Well, initially when I heard, I was gutted. You know what I mean? This is a guy that before I joined TNA, I had no relationship with really, other than saying hi and bye around Ontario Indies whenever he'd show up. He was this historic figure, like monumental figure that had all this like power and done all this stuff in the wrestling business. So you always want to impress him. And we just never had a relationship. But then when I joined TNA over the course of 5 years, I've never worked for somebody that has the kind of vision and care and passion for wrestling like Scott DAmore does. And that's something that we share as a locker room with our boss. You know what I mean? So he cared so much about TNA just as much as us. We're the people going out there putting our bodies on the line, but he's the guy working 20-hour days, pulling the strings behind the scenes to try to make this stuff grow and be the biggest it possibly can. And I think he did an amazing job. I think over the course of my 5 years and the course of like his 6 or 7 in this company, I've never seen a locker room trust their boss so much. And like, that's the one thing I can say about Scott, man. At the end of the day, you might not get the answer you want, but you're going to get an answer. You can always trust that he's going to be honest with you. And that's something that I think is invaluable. I'm going to miss him being my boss and my mentor and that person I can turn to from time to time. But like, it is what it is. It's a business decision made by a company that owns the company. They want to go in a different direction and try new things, and totally valid in that point. They're the ones that own this place. So we're all just along for the ride, making the best of it. And the one thing I can say after No Surrender last weekend and the Impact tapings that followed is the in-ring product is not going to change. We all, as the locker room, still have a chip on our shoulder to go out there and give everything we have every single time to make sure all the fans are getting the money's worth, and they're going to spread the word that TNA is the place to be.
Well said, man. I think that regardless, like you mentioned, the in-ring work is going to be there, and that's always going to be there regardless of what changes are and aren't made. Now, there are some things that I want to touch on. First and foremost, I want to get into, we were talking about, we mentioned the changes, right? And when the TNA rebrand happened was at Hard to Kill. And at Hard to Kill, you had a match against Alex Hammerstone. I want to ask you about that, because you were talking about TNA being sort of the place of the land of opportunity. And that was a really big, like, sink or swim moment for Alex Hammerstone. But I was thinking, I was like, man, he's in the ring with Josh Alexander. Are you kidding me? I was like, that's the best case scenario. How did you feel about getting to have this matchup with him, given how big of an opportunity it was for him to, go out there and show people what he's all about?
So whenever I wrestle anybody that's getting an opportunity, I don't care if it's on Explosion. Go back and watch my Explosion matches with like people like Kevin Blackwood or anybody else. Like I'm very giving in all these matches because I understand that this is an opportunity for them to show what they can do. And, sometimes I've gotten in trouble for it, for being like, the longest reigning tag team champion going out there getting thrown around by, a Kevin Blackwood or something. But like for me, I put myself in their shoes. You know what I mean? I'm putting myself in Alex Hammerstone's shoes in that moment, stepping into pay-per-view on the biggest pay-per-view TNA's ever had for Hard to Kill, the rebrand, the return of TNA, all this stuff. It's a pressure cooker. And to see him come in the ring, and every time I'm getting in the ring with somebody, I'm going to push them to their absolute limit. That's just who I am, for better or for worse. If your name's beside me in the versus column on that card, you know you're going to put in a night's work. And Alex Hammerstone stepped up. He's been somebody I've known on the indies for like 5-6 years now. We've roomed together a fair bit. I know how talented he is. I think he gets painted with a broad stroke from time to time when you look at his physical stature and his look, and they're just like, this guy's just a body guy. He can't wrestle. I'm letting you know. And if you didn't watch Hard to Kill, go back and watch it, because this guy can go. And he made the best of that opportunity. Sure, he didn't come out with the win, but I think he proved to the world and TNA that he belongs in any company in the world. I'm very happy for him.
Yeah, that was definitely really fun, and it was so cool to see how the fans really got interested in the match too. It's just a good vibe overall. Speaking of, like, we talk about this match, man. You and Will Ospreay. My God. And also, you got your first, was it 5.5 star rating match? I mean, that was kind of nuts. How did you feel about the matchup, and how did you feel about the star rating following it?
Well, the matchup, man, like I just talked about, putting myself in the other person's shoes, getting the opportunity. I think when Will stepped foot in TNA at Snake Eyes against me, I think, the shoe was on the other foot. I think, like, as much as I've done a lot of stuff in TNA, I think the world was watching to see if I would step up in that scenario. And like I said, man, that's a pressure cooker. And the pressure was at its highest. But the second we got in the ring, those TNA chants that flooded the building, all the hype around that match, it was an adrenaline rush unlike anything I've ever felt in my life. I don't think I took a breath that entire match. Honestly, I didn't feel an ache and pain the entire time. The adrenaline was insane. And when it was all said and done, coming to the back and realizing that, I stepped up, I hit a home run, I did this stuff that, I was stressing about, making sure that I could go out there and not just represent myself as an individual in this business, but represent our company and our locker room by showing that we can compete with the very best in the world. That meant a great deal to me. And the 5.5 stars, it's mind-boggling to me. When I hear that, it's awesome to be recognized for all this hard work. I've had matches in the past where I'm just like, that's got to be 5 stars. It gets 3.75, and you're like, I don't know what the scale is. I don't know what they want to see. You know what I mean? But it's something that I can look back at in the future, when my career is all said and done, be like, man, I'm proud of that match. I'm proud of what we were able to do. I'm proud it got the notoriety that it deserved. And I'm just super thankful for it.
Damn, that's awesome. I like how you're like, what do I gotta do? What do I have to do out there to make this happen? Well, you definitely did it, and that's freaking awesome. All right. My last question for you is March 8th, we have TNA Sacrifice happening. What can the fans expect from Sacrifice?
Oh, Sacrifice, like I said, this locker room is full of people with a chip on their shoulder. They're going to show the world. There's people getting fresh opportunities. There's people coming down from different companies and joining TNA, and they want to show that they, there's a part of something they may not have been able to show anywhere else. And that's like a Nick Nemeth or a Mustafa Ali, who has recently won his first major championship in 2 decades in wrestling, which is mind-boggling to me, in one of the best exhibition matches I've ever seen against Chris Sabin at No Surrender. But I'm just excited to come back to Canada. It's literally the venue's 3 minutes drive from my house. I am super pumped with the home field advantage, and hopefully that I get something good so I can showcase in front of my hometown fans. Because the last time I was in this venue, I came back and told Alex Shelley I'm back. The time before that, I gave up the championship, so I haven't wrestled in my hometown in a very long time. So I'm chomping at the bit for it.
You mentioned Mustafa Ali. What's it been like to have him in the locker room?
Well, Mustafa's somebody I've known for a long time. Before he went to WWE, we were on the independents throughout the Chicago area a fair bit. So we've always gotten along. He's always carried himself as a professional. He always busts his ass and works hard. I'm just happy that he's, getting to show the world now on his own terms, finally. And, he's done amazing things already, and I'm sure he's just getting started.
Hell yeah. Josh, I'm going to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me here today. It was nice to catch up with you as always. I appreciate your work, man. I'm such a big fan of what you do in the ring. Seriously. Before we go, let the people know where they can watch TNA Wrestling, where they can follow you on social media, all of that stuff.
Well, social media, Twitter and Instagram at walking_weapon. Don't have a TikTok. I'm too old for that.
I don't blame you, man. It's too much.
And like you said, March 8th, Sacrifice, our premium live event, from Windsor, Ontario. We get your tickets now, or come to the next night for the TNA Impact tapings. And watch us every Thursday night on Access TV at 8 p.m.
Awesome. Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, thank you for your support. Please do not forget to subscribe to the channel, and all of the links to follow Josh and also get to watch TNA Wrestling is in the description box below, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye, everyone.